Internet Computer and Caffeine AI. What are my thoughts and expectations? I think that the basic idea of Caffeine AI is rather bullish, but the real question is, do I think that they're going to actually pull it off? Do I think that Dominic Williams and Dfinity are grounded in reality and are actually going to deliver something that lives up to the hype? I think that's the real question here. And of course, Dominic Williams and Dfinity in general have been very bullish on Caffeine AI. They've been really hyping Caffeine AI. And even before they announced Caffeine AI, they were really hyping the whole AI on internet and self-writing internet. One of the newer things, I think, in the January 8th video that was put out by Dominic Williams is that he does actually say in the video that larger, more ambitious projects are still going to require a software engineer. And that's one of the things that I actually liked about the video, because it wasn't so hype. You know, it was a little bit more realistic, a little bit more down to earth, because, you know, you have people that seem to think that Caffeine AI is going to be like the greatest thing that the world has ever seen. And then you have some other people who seem to think that it's just going to be a steaming pile of crap. Personally, I find myself somewhere in between. You know, it's like I mentioned in a previous video last year that my brother, you know, he and his manager and all of his coworkers in his department were let go to be replaced by AI. Now, what he didn't know, what he wasn't told, what he no longer cared about because he was just looking to move on, was what that actually means. And personally, I think that what that likely actually means is they probably took a number of people that were six-figure salary employees and they decided to have AI replace 80 or 90% of the work that they're doing. And they're probably just going to hire somebody out of college, you know, with a bachelor's or master's degree in computer science with an emphasis on AI or maybe data analytics or both, in order to oversee what it's doing rather than just letting it, you know, go and do its thing completely autonomously, because I don't think that that would be a very wise decision with today's technology. Now, either that or they're going to most likely just attach that responsibility to someone in another department, or maybe, you know, an entire other department to oversee it. But the reality is AI cost my brother his job. In my own job, I'm currently a technical trainer, and my primary role is to help people learn Microsoft Office 365 so that they can support Microsoft Office 365. But then there's also other technologies and other services that we sell that I also train on, such as on-premise hosted Exchange and cloud servers and something similar to Dropbox or iCloud, OneDrive, Google Drive, that sort of thing, which my employer puts out and has branded as a product offered by my company. And even in the training, like the management staff, they are really pushing us to utilize our RAG agent, which is kind of strange. It's a little, that's a whole other discussion. They're basically wanting us to train people on how to ask a question and wait 30 seconds to get an answer, because we have a RAG agent which has been trained on our support center articles for our products and services. And the idea is that since certain products and services aren't widely sold, there aren't nearly as many support calls, and so spending, you know, an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours a day on training on those things, only for the staff to spend the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months before they even really get a serious call about one of those products and services, isn't particularly effective, and it's not really an efficient use of anybody's time or resources. And so the idea is to train people on the use of a RAG agent, which that's a whole other matter, because the RAG agent, we're not talking about complex prompt engineering. We're literally talking about asking a very simple question in a single sentence. So it'll be interesting approaching that. I think the ask is a little short-sighted. You know, if you're hiring people that you have to train how to ask a question, then I think the problem isn't the training. I think that there's issues elsewhere. But anyway, that's a whole other issue. You know, in addition to watching some videos on the subject and the concern put out by James Allen, I also watched a couple of videos from Brian Fobos Phobos, including one he put out today. And he was saying that one of the things that Brian was saying is he doesn't think that, the audio aspect of Caffeine AI is going to work out. And I can understand why he's saying that, because the way Dominic Williams has presented it multiple times is that it is audio based, or it seems to be audio based. But when you look at the screenshot from the banner on X for the Caffeine AI account, this screenshot doesn't look like something that you're going to be speaking to verbally or rather audibly. It looks like any other chatbot, meaning you're going to type to it and it's going to respond. It does not appear to me that you're going to be actually speaking to it, which actually I think is good, because if you had to speak to it, with all the different accents and speech impediments and mispronounced words and so forth that people are prone to, I think that would cause problems with using Caffeine AI. Now, as far as what I expect the capabilities of Caffeine AI at release and shortly after release to actually be, I suspect that it is going to allow you to create dApps. However, I think that those dApps are also going to be very, very basic. Think along the terms of writing your very first program, which typically is going to be hello world, which is where you just print hello world to the screen. I think Caffeine AI is going to be a bit more capable than that. But as far as, like I said in another video last year, I really want a CMS on chain, something like WordPress. Doesn't have to be a clone of WordPress, but I use WordPress as an example because WordPress is a extremely popular CMS, and it is responsible for powering tens of millions of websites. However, I also think that Caffeine AI, in order to use that to recreate WordPress, I think would require hundreds, if not thousands, of interactions with Caffeine AI. And I would imagine that it will be a very time-consuming and frustrating experience. It's like anybody that has actually used Claude.ai or ChatGPT or Grok 2 or whatever other chatbots to help with coding. Yes, they can be helpful. Yes, they can make certain things easier, but they absolutely will just make stuff up. They will hallucinate. I've had instances where I just want some PowerShell written to, take a CSV, a list of UPNs, and change a password in Office 365. And here I'm having to go through 3, 4, 5, 6 different iterations with ChatGPT because it keeps screwing up over and over and over. And we're talking, this is less than half a page of scripting. It's probably like a fifth of a page of scripting. It's very simple code, and it would completely screw up. And these are very large language models. Now, that said, they are very large language models with billions and billions of parameters trained on huge data sets, whereas Caffeine AI, I would expect it's going to be trained on things specific to Internet Computer, like Motoko, and maybe Rust, and it might know some React and some other things that you might want to use when you're building dApps for Internet Computer. But it's not going to be trained on how to play chess or how to speak Icelandic or, how to calculate the total mass of the Milky Way galaxy. I think and expect that it's going to be a lot more laser focused. And I think that that laser focus should allow Dfinity to create a more useful tool as compared to trying to use Claude AI to create your own program without any programming experience. As far as using Caffeine AI to create a website, if you want a website, like a very simple one-page website like Jerry Banfield has, I fully expect that it's going to be able to do that for you. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make my life any easier, because what I actually want is a CMS. I want something like WordPress. More specifically, I want a blogging platform. I want to be able to, once I get a site set up and I release a new video on YouTube, or 2 or 5 or 17 or whatever the case may be, I want to be able to go and create a post or the equivalent of a WordPress post on my site. And I want to embed a YouTube video or 2 or 3. And I want to say a few things and include maybe an infographic or two and link to some other site and other resources online. And I want to be able to do that very quickly and easily. Like, I don't want to have to engage Caffeine AI. I don't want to have to go into a canister. I don't want to have to go into code every single time I want to add a new page to my site. And that, I don't think, is something that Caffeine AI is going to fix, nor do I think that it's in scope of Caffeine AI to address that specific scenario. Furthermore, my expectations upon the release of Caffeine AI is I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed for one reason above all else. I don't think that you and I are going to be able to use Caffeine AI anytime soon. So just to put this into specific context, let's say Caffeine AI gets released in February or March 2025. I think what DFINITY is going to end up doing is they're going to end up limiting access to Caffeine AI. And I think the reason that they're going to do that is because, to be honest with you, I have my doubts of any one 13-node application subnet on Internet Computer being able to handle the load that the users will put onto the subnet by using Caffeine AI in mass. Because think about it. Let's say that there's, just to use numbers here, let's just say that 100,000 ICP bulls, they learn Caffeine AI is released, and now 80,000 of them are playing around with Caffeine AI. I mean, that's a huge workload to put on a single subnet just all of a sudden. And look, I understand a lot of people are going to say, well, that's what Internet Computer is designed for. They want to decentralize the internet. This is also where I'm going to throw something back in your face that a lot of the people in the ICP community love to throw back in my face. Well, it's a 20-year roadmap. We're 3 years into a 20-year roadmap, right? Like, people keep saying that as if it's a legitimate excuse for not making incremental progress. And yeah, I am talking about incremental price progress here. I'm not talking about reducing the latency by 50% and making incremental upgrades to the blockchain. And I'm not against making upgrades to the blockchain. But at the end of the day, what it's really all about is the price. And to put this into further context for you, I'm turning 47 soon. I have no interest in waiting until I'm 64 for Internet Computer to really take off. In addition to that, it's not realistic. Like, saying we're 3 years into a 20-year roadmap is not relevant to me, because, the internet didn't just pop up one day magically overnight. Like, yesterday there was no internet, but today there is. We're not going to go from Web 2 to Web 3 hosted on Internet Computer overnight. It's not like 15 years from now, all of a sudden Google is hosted on Internet Computer and eBay is on Internet Computer and YouTube is on Internet Computer and Facebook is on it. That's not how this is going to work. And so to that point, I personally really hope that Caffeine AI is released very soon, even if it is a limited access release. Like, I think DFINITY might, have people play some sort of game, essentially, is what it'll break down to see who will be awarded or early access to what will essentially be a closed beta for Caffeine AI. That's what I think is going to happen. And just to be clear, today is Monday, January 20th, and it is currently 3:02 p.m. Pacific time, which is my local time. And so with that in mind, we're already into day one of Web3 Hub, Davos 2025, which runs from January 20th to January 23rd, 2025, hosted in Davos, Switzerland. And more specifically, with regards to Internet Computer, it looks like their time slot is Tuesday, January 21st, between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. GMT +1, as we see here. And so I expect that this week there will be some news, some videos, some video clips about what has come out of Davos. And I think that it is entirely possible that they will make an announcement about Caffeine AI, which would make me somewhat happy. Really, what I'm looking for is not a demo of Caffeine AI. I'm not even really looking for a release date of Caffeine AI. I'm looking for Caffeine AI to, in fact, get released. So with regards to Caffeine AI, and specifically, do I think this is a good thing? Do I think it's a bad thing? What do I think about it? I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think that it could be a good thing. I think it could be a flop. Either way, what I want is I want Caffeine AI to get released so that we can actually see what Caffeine AI is all about and move on from there. What are your thoughts?